Good morning, everybody. I'm feeling much better. Thanks for asking. It's a beautiful Father's Day 2016, and I thought for today's vlog I could put together a little video for my dad. He lives really far away in Wisconsin, and I just wanted to do something, show him I love him. Couldn't actually send you anything this year, so here's a present kind of sort of for you thing. All right, here we go.
Oh, those beans, bacon, and gravy, they almost drive me crazy. I eat them, I see them in my dreams. When I wake up each morning and another day is dawning, no, I'll have another mess of beans.
My dad was born Jeffrey Earl McCrary in Port Arthur, Texas in 1955 to his parents Ross and Clara McCrary. Port Arthur, situated on the border of Texas and Louisiana, was a town of oil refineries, which at its peak in 1955 was generating over 270,000 barrels of crude oil every single day.
My dad said it was a pretty great place to grow up, but not to make a living, because the choices were either get drafted into the Vietnam War or go into the oil refineries, which was a toxic environment to say the least. And either way, it could lead to an early end.
After studying at the De La Salle Christian Brothers Monastery, he decided to return home when the lifestyle wasn't for him. That same year, he met Janis Joplin in Port Arthur. Janis, the most prolific female blues and rock singer probably ever, hailed from Port Arthur and was there for a high school reunion. She convinced my dad and a few of his friends to go to Woodstock, and so he did. That same year, when my dad returned home, he received his first piece of mail ever, his draft notice. He decided to join the Navy so he would have some power over his fate and possibly travel the world a while.
And this decision had to be made in earnest, considering out of the some 650,000 boys that were drafted, his was number 2.
My dad was stationed in Spain for 8 years, where he traveled all over Europe on motorcycle. He thankfully only flew into the Vietnam conflict a few times, one of which was a flight into Phu Ly, where there wasn't enough room for everyone they rescued and themselves in the helicopters, so they willingly stayed behind to be captured by the Viet Cong while the rescue party returned a week later to liberate their camp.
This was a part of my dad's life he never really elaborated on, and I was happy not to pry into, I grew up in a time where we had a huge fighting force at all times ready at a moment's notice, and I never had to worry about a letter of conscription coming in the mail. I guess it was a possibility, but I just hope that my kids don't have to worry about that either, or their kids, and so on forever.
My dad was discharged after 8 years of service in Virginia Beach, Virginia, my hometown. After a time, he met my mom playing music at a bar, and they formed a group called Everclear. No, not that Everclear. My parents were the OG Everclear, and they released an album entitled Dragon Run that still sits proudly in my house and has pretty steady rotation. My mom played banjo, hammer dulcimer, and sang harmony, while my dad played guitar and sang lead vocals on the record. They were the bluegrass/folk darlings of the Appalachian Mountains for years, as they traveled and played venues big and small, from dive bars to festivals, all along the eastern seaboard.
I can feel the sweet wind blowing as I go, as I go. I can feel the sweet wind blowing through the valleys and the hills. I'm going.
Later on in high school, I would befriend people in my theater department who had grown up on their cassette tapes, believe it or not.
After a time, my parents decided to settle down and raise a family, and that's where my brother, my sister, and I came along. My dad took a gig as an information specialist at the Virginia Beach Public Library at the ocean front, where he worked for many years. My parents separated years ago and remarried. They're both happier now, and I'm happy for them. My dad and his wife Karen now run the Harbor Hill House Bed and Breakfast in Bayfield, Wisconsin.
My dad was always a font of information. It was kind of his job. I remember he would bring home stacks of books, armloads of books over the weekend, and he would just devour them, like a book a night. And I always found it kind of freaky how he could be so focused and work so hard. But that's him.
Just a quick look through his small library that filled some rooms of our home would uncover tomes on every world religion, volumes on early wartime technology, and the works of anyone between Poe, Tolkien, Bradbury, and Stoker. In fact, it's not hard to see where my love of fantasy sci-fi and the macabre comes from. Growing up in our house was like being the son of Indiana Jones. We could spend hours exploring the cobwebs between pages and the half-spent candles littering the garage as we played with antique chess sets and marveled at wartime trinkets that adorned the miles of shelving.
Dad was also endlessly supportive of anything that we wanted to do.
He'd be there at karate tournaments one year and camping with us at Scouts the next. He'd cheer on at every football game he could attend and cheer louder at every high school production. He'd drive us to school when we were late and quiz us on flashcards before he'd let us out of the truck. He's a role model to many and a friend to many more. He's an old sentimental hippie who may not have taught me to sing, but I can hear him in my voice whenever I do. He taught me to be thoughtful, accepting, empathetic, creative, diverse, and most of all kind.
The smell of wood smoke filled the air as hunters barreled in. They'd sit upon the big old stove and tails they'd start to spin. The snow would melt from off their clothes and steam would start to rise. Laughter filled the kitchen, bright twinkles filled their eyes. Big black wood stove, grandma's kitchen, suppers in the pot. Come and share some home-baked bread and coffee while it's hot. Pies and cookies, soups and stews, sweet strawberry jam. Nobody else could ever use a wood stove like my gram. Big black wood stove, grandma's kitchen, suppers in the pot. Come and share some home-baked bread and coffee while it's hot. Pies and cookies, soups and stews, sweet strawberry jam. Nobody else could ever use a wood stove like my gram. Warmth and comfort fill my senses, sleepy and content. Belly filled with rabbit stew, my hunger now I'll spend. Time to go, says Mom and Dad, they turn on outdoor lamps. I get a good black kiss from Gram and a whisker up from Gramps. Big black wood stove, grandma's kitchen, suppers in the pot. Come and share some home-baked bread and coffee while it's hot. Pies and cookies, soups and stews, sweet strawberry jam. Nobody else could ever use a wood stove like my gram. Pies and cookies, soups and stews, sweet strawberry jam. Nobody else could ever use a wood stove like my gram.